In our previous video, we looked at the two beasts of Revelation 13. The first beast is the Roman Catholic Church, as Ellen White clearly and unmistakably explains. Let's take a look at it again in Great Controversy. This symbol, as most Protestants have believed, represents the papacy, which succeeded to the power and seat and authority once held by the ancient Roman Empire. Great Controversy 439. The second beast, despite some rogue claims to the contrary, is Protestant United States. One nation, and only one, meets the specifications of this prophecy. It points unmistakably to the United States of America. Great Controversy, page 440. Now that we have their identity, we must ask a crucial question. Which beast is more important? Or rather, which beast is more dangerous right now? In the final events, the first beast reigns upon the world's throne in defiance of God, supported by the second beast. But does that make the first, Catholic beast, the most dangerous now? Ellen White describes the first beast and its chronological history. This prophecy, which is nearly identical with the description of the little horn of Daniel 7, unquestionably points to the papacy. Power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And, says the prophet, I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. And again, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. The 42 months are the same as the time and times and the dividing of times, 3 years and a half, or 1260 days of Daniel 7, the time during which the papal power was to oppress God's people. This period, as stated in preceding chapters, began with the supremacy of the papacy, AD 538, and terminated in 1798. At that time, the Pope was made captive by the French army, the papal power received its deadly wound, and the prediction was fulfilled. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. At this point, another symbol is introduced. Great Controversy 439. Ellen White goes on to describe the second beast, the United States. She describes the rise and fall of America and how it will speak as a dragon. Then she examines the image to the beast and what it represents. Later, she circles back to the first beast and how both beasts work together. But in this homage to the papacy, the United States will not be alone. The influence of Rome in the countries that once acknowledged her dominion is still far from being destroyed, and prophecy foretells a restoration of her power. I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. The infliction of the deadly wound points to the downfall of the papacy in 1798. After this, says the prophet, his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Great Controversy 579. But when is the deadly wound healed? In a parallel passage from Signs of the Times, she examines the same passage from Revelation 13, and here she gives the time frame. When satanic agencies shall unite with the professed Christian world in opposing God, these words of the prophet will be fulfilled. In blind zeal, the brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents, and cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. God desires his servants to remember the instruction here given, that they may not be deceived in regard to what is coming upon the world. Signs of the Times, November 7, 1900. According to Ellen White, the healing of the deadly wound is still coming upon the world. The deadly wound has not completely recovered yet. Sure, the Catholic Church has enormous influence and control in many countries. Sure, the Pope goes everywhere and is considered a hero by the masses. Definitely, the Jesuits are doing what they have been doing since their inception. And thanks to conservative presidents of the last 4 decades, America's Supreme Court is now controlled by Catholics. But does that mean the deadly wound is healed? Definitely not, as we still have freedom to worship on whatever day we choose. The Catholic Church has been pushing Sunday sacredness for centuries. Does that demand result in laws forcing us to worship on Sunday? In fact, even in those countries who are mostly Catholic, religious freedom still exists to various degrees. No pronouncement of the Pope results in laws being enacted in America. Not yet. So the deadly wound is not fully healed. When will it be, according to inspiration? When satanic agencies shall unite with the professed Christian world in opposing God, these words of the prophet will be fulfilled. In other words, the first beast is waiting for the professed Christian world. Since the Catholic Church isn't going to be waiting for itself, it must refer to the non-Catholic Christian churches, the Protestants. At the end, the leader of this movement is American Protestantism, as described in detail by Ellen White. Let's again go to the Great Controversy. When the leading churches of the United States, uniting upon such points of doctrine as are held by them in common, shall influence the state to enforce their decrees and to sustain their institutions, then Protestant America will have formed an image of the Roman hierarchy, and the infliction of civil penalties upon dissenters will inevitably result. Great Controversy 445. When the deadly wound is healed, the Catholic Church becomes the most powerful since it controlled the Western world during the Dark Ages. Control becomes complete, and the last days play out. The details of this process remain to be seen, and speculation is not fruitful. But note the key aspect to all of this. The first beast, papacy, must wait for the second beast, apostate Protestantism, to do its part. This makes the second beast more important to us now than the first. The second beast is the catalyst, the history pivot, the force that lights the fuse of destruction. This makes a Pope watch unnecessary and probably dangerous. It distracts us from the current and immediate danger of the second beast. Monitoring every move of the Pope and his agents should not be our focus. Should we dismiss them? Of course not. We know who runs that show. We know the Pope is the man of sin. We know the Jesuits are up to no good. But railing against them publicly and privately will not change anything and will take attention from the true menace of apostate Protestantism. Jesuits influence and provoke Protestantism to act in the papacy's interest, but the responsibility lies with the second beast. We don't need a Pope watch. We need a Protestant watch. Remember always the clear prediction by God's messenger to the final generation. The Protestants of the United States will be foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism. They will reach over the abyss to clasp hands with the Roman power, and under the influence of this threefold union, this country will follow in the steps of Rome in trampling on the rights of conscience. Great Controversy 588. Who reaches out to whom? Who initiates the union of spiritualism and Catholicism and Protestantism? Who is the prime villain of this dark future? Fallen apostate Protestantism is the key force. Catholicism reaps the rewards, since they are all on the same side anyway, with the same actuating spirit. If we do not pay attention to the principal current threat, we will become the fish I talked about in misdirection and guile. Those facing the wrong way, becoming distracted by the misdirections of the second beast, will become easy prey for the increasingly powerful second beast when it decides to strike. Whenever the Roman Church has obtained secular power, she has employed it to punish dissent from her doctrines. Protestant churches that have followed in the steps of Rome by forming alliance with worldly powers have manifested a similar desire to restrict liberty of conscience. Great Controversy 443. Those who honor the Bible Sabbath will be denounced as enemies of law and order, as breaking down the moral restraints of society, causing anarchy and corruption, and calling down the judgments of God upon the earth. Their conscientious scruples will be pronounced obstinacy, stubbornness, and contempt of authority. They will be accused of disaffection toward the government. Ministers who deny the obligation of the divine law will present from the pulpit the duty of yielding obedience to the civil authorities as ordained of God. In legislative halls and courts of justice, commandment keepers will be misrepresented and condemned. Great Controversy 592. One final point of critical importance. When discussing evangelicals as a group, I do not intend to condemn individual members of the various churches involved. I am not talking about the sincere individuals who attend church, pray before their meals, or homeschool their kids. Many evangelicals are lovely people that believe strongly in what is right. Many of these will join with the remnant during the final events as the issues are made clearer. Just as we do not denounce individuals in the Catholic Church when we identify the first beast, so we do not denounce individuals in the evangelical movement when we identify the power that will set up the image to the beast. When I refer to the second beast power, I am referring to the church leadership and political agenda that knowingly sells its spiritual soul for temporal power. They have deliberately rejected the truth and will persecute those that remain faithful to it. And according to inspiration, this is not just a future condition, but has been proceeding since Ellen White's time. Let's take a look. As the Protestant churches reject the clear, scriptural arguments in defense of God's law, they will long to silence those whose faith they cannot overthrow by the Bible. Though they blind their own eyes to the fact, they are now adopting a course which will lead to the persecution of those who conscientiously refuse to do what the rest of the Christian world are doing and acknowledge the claims of the papal Sabbath. Great Controversy 592. Always keep the anglerfish in mind when we decide which beast is most dangerous. The first beast is waiting for its deadly wound to heal. The second beast is hungry and getting ready to strike. If we listen to inspiration, we will not be facing the wrong way.